Imagine a room with windows sealed, chairs rigid in restricting straight rows, with tables standing before them equally as inflexible. Some tables have been put together with chairs to surround them, some sick, twisted formation. A white screen at the front of the room, where one must stare lest the warden catches them looking elsewhere, or God forbid, sleeping. But it's so hard not to feel drowsy as they drone on and on.
So many fall here, but most fall when you know what comes to pray, stealing sense and reason, plunging all into despair. What you have just heard, ladies and gentlemen, is an accurate description of the classroom through the eyes of the contemporary teenager. The modern Sisyphus, studying and cramming, pulling all-nighters for an exam just to do it all over again. But what if it didn't have to feel like a punishment? What if one could enjoy the hardships, the struggles, the battle that is the learning process? These are the ramblings that filled the head of a seventh grader promptly before getting startled by a warden. Little did he know the path these thoughts would lead to. We all have a school subject we detest with all our hearts, one that is so unbearable that the mere utterance of its name sends shivers of dread down our spine. For some, this may be biology. For others, French, citizenship, English, and of course, most infamously, math. Between you and me, you can never really count on those people. And when asked why one dislikes the subject the way they do, the replies range from, "It's too hard," to "the teacher hates me," all the way until my personal favorite, "I don't know, I just do." But what is so inherently off about math that causes so many people to dislike it? Sure, algebra might be a bit frightening at first, but once you get to know him, he's a pretty great guy. Some terminology in math may be a bit difficult, but it's not mandatory to get the technical jargon to comprehend what the topic is talking about. So why do so many people justify their hate, or worse, their fear of these subjects using these reasons? Well, the straight answer is there is no justifiable reason behind hating a subject that the subject themselves caused. Instead, the problem lies within our own perception. Ultimately, if you strip everything down from everything external down from a subject, all you are left with is raw information. And how can raw information be inherently malicious? I believe the problem lies within our own humanistic egoism. Humans are naturally inclined to like things that make them look better to the people around them. So if something does the opposite of that, undermining that perception, we tend to severely dislike it. Few people enjoy being bad at something or not getting something immediately. Unfortunately, since failing is a vital part of the learning process, many people shy away from learning as a whole. But when we fall and fail even outside school, the best thing to do is to make what you can out of a difficult situation. So instead of dislike that caters to a negative perception and ultimately leads to one's suffering, why don't we enjoy it instead? Why develop an irrational fear, a dread of something, when you can enjoy it? Especially considering that this is something we're lucky to have. Put the luck argument aside. This is something mandatory. You have to go through school. So why not make the most of it? But before we start enjoying school, we must understand one of the primary perceptions that leads us to disliking it. Something we all care about, something we all receive, either with dread or with triumph: grades. Whether in numbers, percentages, or letters with funny little symbols next to them, grades are everywhere. They are the universal constant, but for lame little buildings instead of the entire universe. And the reason for their existence is due to the fact that they're quite practical at measuring one's aptitude in a subject. It informs us of the vital weaknesses we may have, the strengths we have, and provides us an overview of our health in the subject. However, whether it be due to the development of materialism in the modern world or one's need for self-affirmation, the modern student placed an unwarranted amount of value on grades. It's counterintuitive, since it has become the goal rather than serving as a measure. Trust me, as a person who, due to student perfectionism, stays up for school to the point where when someone asks me, "What time have you slept?" I reply, "Today." It is not a fun experience. Frankly, even for those who don't treat school like an obsession, receiving grades can be stressful, and not doing as well as one hopes is equally as stressful. The saddening fact is we try to cover this up by showing a dislike or disinterest for the places we fall short in, not only causing us to suffer, but making classrooms feel like prisons rather than places to satiate one's curiosity. Killing the learner's spirit. We are our own enemy in this. For me, this subject was Arabic. In my mind, there was just something about it that caused me to hate it. I was a spindly, angsty 12-year-old 7th grader at the height of the COVID pandemic doing blended learning. One day, however, I thought a very straightforward question. Why? Why do I say that I hate it with such conviction? Before this point, I had never considered this absolute in my life. It was just one of those things that just were, like the constantly blinking light at the right-hand corner of the classroom. But when I started to think and ask, I learned that there was no reason. Sure, Arabic is quite a tricky subject, the language itself having over 12 million words and a literal zillion grammatical nuances. However, the difficulty of the course was adjusted to a 7th grade level. I had good relations with the teacher, love you, Miss Noura, and average grades. So why was I so insistent? I wondered. Why am I telling you this? Well, it illustrates the importance of challenging one's prejudices and stigma when it comes to school, and the significance of it. If you think you will find something unbearable, when that thing eventually comes, or in my case, the days where I have Arabic, when those days finally come, they will feel unbearable. So logically, trying to enjoy it is the solution. But why is enjoying beneficial? Breaking news. Enjoying what you're doing significantly affects how well you learn a subject. Really? I didn't know that. Yes, I know it's an undeniable relationship, but it is crucial. Enjoyment plays a vital role in several aspects of the learning process. We've all been in that situation where during an exam, instead of what we need to know, which is the chemical formula of glucose, coming to mind, the names of the Kardashians do. This is because of enjoyment's crucial role. Our brain usually labels what we don't enjoy as unimportant, eventually tossing it out. Hence the struggle. Studying ahead of time, however, isn't enough either. Because if one still fears and dreads the subject that's going to come, their brain will keep the information in their head as a survival mechanism rather than something that they were supposed to learn. So once the threat, in this case, it can be an exam or a project, has passed, our brain will do a bit of spring cleaning, and there goes all the information that you earned with your blood, sweat, and tears. Hence the need for enjoying. Now that you're all convinced that enjoying is the way, we must learn how to do it in 2-ish steps. The first step is to go to the base level, Think positively about the subject. This is crucial to changing one's perspective on the subject. It is key to be open-minded, especially as a student and as a person overall. Essentially, what I'm trying to tell you guys is, substitute the negative with the positive. Think about how the subject contributes positively to your life as a whole, rather than the small negatives that may come with it. And eventually, you will become a more versatile, rich person. It's like being the only person that likes dark chocolate. The more things you enjoy doing, the more versatile a person you become logically. Dark chocolate is like that. If you dislike its taste, in the box you only have 2 other flavors, white and milk, which everyone else likes. So not only do you have a lot less chocolate, but you become a boring person. But if you like dark chocolate, not only do you become a richer person, but you have a whole lot more chocolate. The next piece of advice is to always commit fraud. Fake it until you make it. Become a con artist. Act like you enjoy the topic until you eventually deceive yourself into thinking you do. It sounds kind of ridiculous, but strangely enough, it works. If you fake a smile, you will eventually become happy, but committing fraud will make you enjoy a subject more. This is known as self-perception theory. Self-perception theory states that one's behavior influences the way one thinks. This means that instead of one's opinion influencing the way they behave towards something, it is the other way around. So if I commit tax fraud, I will be fine. But if I commit enjoyment fraud, I'll make a profit in the long run. The last piece of advice I would like to give my fellow students is this. Be eager for what benefits you. Don't hate something that tries to help you. And maybe, just maybe, you can become a part of that vision that 7th grader had 3 years ago. One where school is no longer dreaded and the taste of knowledge made sweet. Thank you.